Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast, also known as My Nightmare. I'm your host, Dan Harris. You can find me on Twitter at DanHarris80. With me are my guys, Kyle Yates and Mike Tagliere. You can find them on Twitter at KyleYNFL and at Mike Tagliere NFL. The reason it is My Nightmare is it's because it's our Halloween episode. And so if you're listening to this in your car or in your house, you probably want to go over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasypros. We are all dressed in appropriate costume for the day. Guys, I mean, do you love dressing up? Are you like the adults who go out and go crazy and dress up every Halloween or what?
No, this is the worst.
I would like to play a game.
Okay. So Tags is very upset because neither Yates nor I can identify the origins of his costume.
All I had to say was that I want to play a game. Everyone listening will know.
Why don't I know? Is it like Pennywise? Is that the name of the clown or something?
Oh, my goodness.
I don't know. Am I going to have to look at you like this the whole podcast and you're not going to tell me who you are?
Absolutely. No.
Okay.
In reality, it's Jigsaw.
Oh, well. Sorry, Tags. Well, I mean, you have kids. You don't really watch those movies I'm the worst. I've ruined my whole sort of thing where I know movies. Well, I bet you don't know.
Hold on. Dan, you don't know Yates. Do you know Jigsaw?
No, I'm the one who doesn't watch movies. How would I know that?
Tags.
What is wrong with you two?
I think that we're fine. I bet you can't identify my costume. I mean, I'm an obscure reference.
You are looking like yourself. You don't look like you dressed up at all.
It's true. This is actually just my normal Wednesday outfit. I just decided to throw it on for the podcast. Yes. For those, you should see it because it's grotesque. But I am dressed as Woody, which was really the only choice that I could make for Halloween. I got my kids off the bus this afternoon dressed as Woody. It's a big hit for them, not for me, who is embarrassed. And Yates, you can explain your costume if you want, but it's pretty obvious for anyone watching.
Yeah, rocking a solid Friends reference here. So, head over to youtube.com/fantasypros.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to put on my glasses now, okay? I went without the glasses so I could look more like Woody at the start. But now I'm going to keep the hat on. I'm going to keep the whole thing, the little sheriff's badge right here. You can see it. I've got the full thing. I'm going to keep it on all day. But in the meantime, this is legitimately my nightmare. I'm going to be doing this for an hour dressed as Woody with, by the way, you can see on YouTube, the hat doesn't really fit. I ordered the gargantuan size, but they don't make Harris-sized cowboy hats, okay? You've got to go to a crazy freak show to find a hat that's big, but whatever. It's going to just balance on my large gargantuan melon. Anyway, we're going to get into it today. It's our start-sit show. Again, also my nightmare, but it is crunch time. All right, guys, we can't leave anything on the table. You need to make those tough lineup calls. That's what our start assistant is there to help you out with. You need waiver wire advice tailored to your actual league. Use our waiver assistant. Do you want to evaluate a trade? Our trade analyzer is going to do that for you. Are you in too many leagues to devote time enough to all of them? Our multi-league assistant is going to let you manage them all from one place, and the autopilot feature will automatically set your team's best lineup. All of these tools can be found in our My Playbook tool, which you can get with a premium subscription to Fantasy Pros. And right now, you can get one for 6 months free. Go to fantasypros.com/offers. Make a $10 deposit to either Monkey Knife Fight, Prize Picks, FanDuel, or DraftKings. Enter a contest. And so, of course, if you enter a contest, you may actually have a chance to win more money than you put in. Once that's done, you'll get 6 months free of our Hall of Fame subscription, a $65 value, and unlimited access to all of our premium tools, features, and contents. The offer is only available to brand new users of those sites. So if that's you, go ahead and sign up and put yourself in the best position to win your league. Again, that's fantasypros.com/offers. All right, guys, start to show so you know what we do here. But let's start with a couple of news items that have dripped and drabbed out of the Twitterverse today. Let's start with Allen Robinson, who's in the concussion protocol. We saw him, have the big hit late in the game. Let's just assume for these purposes that Allen Robinson is out next week against the Saints. Tags, are you starting any other Bears wide receiver, or it's hands off for you?
I mean, Darnell Mooney would probably be the one. He's playing all the snaps. He's a full-time player. Anthony Miller, I don't even know what would happen. I mean, I'm guessing they'd play Javon Wims or Riley Ridley on the perimeter and keep Anthony Miller in the role he's had, because no matter what, Matt Nagy, no matter what happens, no matter what the matchup they have is, no matter what's happening, Matt Nagy just refuses to play Anthony Miller in a full-time role.
Is there a theory behind this, by the way? You guys are both Bears fans. Do we know?
He's a bad coach. I know
because-
Yates doesn't agree with me, but I think he's a terrible play caller.
I know
that's
I'm not
fine.
the play caller.
Go
I
ahead.
agree with that. I think he's a.
But
good
what about
head
why isn't he
coach.
playing Miller though? Why is there? Because we all three of us like Miller coming into the year. We like his talent. What is the reason behind barely playing him?
I don't know.
Tags? Other than he's a terrible coach?
That's what I'm saying. That's a definition of someone that's not coaching properly. He might be a good leader and all that stuff, and he does do a job in interviews, but it's starting to look like someone that, like, I don't want to say Adam Gase, but I mean, it has not looked good. And like trying to get too cute with everything, I don't understand what's happening. I really don't know what's going on with the play calling there. And I mean, he's already said that he might give up play calling duties if they think that's a problem. And I think anybody watching the Bears think that's a problem.
All right, Yates, are you agree that you would not start any other Bears wide receiver even if Robinson is out?
Yeah, I think Mooney would be the guy that we would look at, but it's nothing more than a flex play. You can't trust this offense, especially when you don't have someone like Allen Robinson taking away attention. So, I mean, Jimmy Graham potentially would be benefit too, but outside of that, man, just stay away.
Yeah, I don't think Mooney's even going to be in the flex consideration for me, although I'm going to reserve judgment because, again, we don't know. That just sort of came across, but it does sound like his status is in doubt, of course. Meanwhile, Mark Ingram also missed practice. This is after a bye, guys, so, you know, he has the ankle sprain, so coming off a bye, you miss your first practice. That's not a good sign. Would you start any other running back? I'll go to you first, Yates, against Pittsburgh for Baltimore.
Yeah, I'll start J.K. Dobbins, but it comes with the expectation that you're going to see Gus Edwards involved and you're going to see Justice Hill most likely. So Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, I think people are going to go crazy. They're going to rank him as a top 15 running back. People are going to say that he's a locked and loaded start. I won't be there. I'll probably have him as a low-end RB2, someone that you can start, but, man, we need to temper expectations with this backfield.
What about you, Tex?
Yeah, I would say Dobbins would be considered a start. I'm assuming right now that Ingram is going to be held out. I have Dobbins as my RB24, and I have Gus Edwards in there. He's down at RB38 right now. Edwards is like a 1-2 down guy, and Pittsburgh allows nothing on the ground, whereas like J.K. Dobbins is more of an explosive player where you can have that one play upside with him. That's why I think he'd be worth sticking into lineups because you know he'd be getting, let's say at least 10 to 12 touches with the possibility of more. So I'd say Dobbins would be a start for me.
Joe Mixon has missed practice. I'm assuming that Joe Mixon's going to be out for this game.
Yep.
Unless I've missed something, I still have no idea what his foot injury is. Do we have any?
I think they called it a midfoot sprain or something like that.
Okay, so they've got the bye next week. We thought this originally. We thought that it was most likely, unless your name is Chris Carson, when you have an injury like this and you have a bye in 2 weeks, they're going to keep you out for 2 weeks. So I'm assuming that Mixon is not going to play in this game. So let's start with you, Tags. Where are you currently ranking Giovanni Bernard against the Titans this week?
I have Giovanni Bernard at RB15.
Okay, I'm at 13. Yates, what about you?
Yeah, it's the same range for me.
Okay, yep. So again, he wasn't dominant last week. He kind of saved his value with that late touchdown, but he was involved in the passing game. And, any running back who starts for, the number one running back for the Bengals, they're usually good for roughly, 18 touches. So he certainly started as he was last week. Finally, Aaron Jones also sounds like he may miss. I mean, it's reading a little bit between the lines based on the quote that was given by Matt LaFleur that they may be a little cautious with him. So we saw Jamal Williams smash. Yates, would you assume that he's going to do that again? Where would you have him ranked this week against Minnesota if Jones is out?
Yeah, so I'm still going off the premise that Aaron Jones is, questionable, that he's likely to play this week or has that question. So I haven't officially ruled him out. I haven't moved forward with Jamal Williams as the main guy. So I have him a little bit further down in my rankings, but yet if Aaron Jones does sit out, then we got to talk about Jamal Williams as probably in that same territory of a Giovanni Bernard, probably would land it like as a high-end RB2 in my rankings.
Yeah, how about you, Tex?
Yeah, if for whatever reason that Aaron Jones were held out again, I would say I'm going to go as far as to say that Jamal Williams would be probably like a low-end RB1. He looked really good last week. Granted, it was a really good matchup against Houston, but I would definitely put him up there.
I'm a little worried now just because, again, what I really wanted to hear coming out of this, especially, with the calf injury, is that like, oh, yeah, he's pretty much back to 100%. And not hearing that, I worry if Jones plays what that means for both of them. I don't want to see the situation where Jones plays, possibly aggravates the injury, or just that they go in and saying we're going to get Williams more heavily involved, because that's going to make neither one of them a particularly exciting start. All right, let's do some start sit. You know how we start with this. We start with running backs who are outside the top 20 in our expert consensus rankings. Those are rankings that are put in by analysts from all around the industry. Let's start with somebody outside the top 20 in ECR who you're looking to start this week. Let's start with you, Tags.
All right. I'm going to say Jerick McKinnon is someone that I'm actually willing to trust this week. I know, Dan, you and I have gone back and forth in these 49ers running backs and, who to start, who not to start. And the more I looked at this matchup, the more I think it favors McKinnon. Even if Hasty gets a significant role on the 1-2 downs. If you look at the matchup against Seattle, opponents are averaging over 40 pass attempts per game against them. We're missing, obviously, a ton of options. Deebo Samuel's out. Tevin Coleman's out. Raheem Mostert's out. When you start taking away all these options, the targets have to go somewhere, and Jerick McKinnon is the best receiving back on that team. The Seahawks have allowed the 10th fewest fantasy points on the ground to running backs, whereas you look at the 9.5 targets per game that running backs are seeing against them. That's where McKinnon should probably do his work. Hasty only ran, I think it was 8 pass routes over the last 2 weeks, so he's not really involved in the passing game, and I think everybody expects the Seattle Seahawks to be out in front in this game, so McKinnon's role should be safe enough where I'm willing to trust him as like a low-end RB2, high-end RB3.
Okay, so in expert consensus rankings, and the most popular who should I start question right now is JaMycal Hasty or Jerick McKinnon. In the ECR, Hasty is 25th, McKinnon is 26th. You would start McKinnon over Hasty.
I have McKinnon at 22. I have Hasty at 26. So
they're both guys that you think you can get away with starting this week.
It's just I'm almost hedging my bets here because you don't want to bet too much on him because Hasty has looked good and there are going to be some carries. Let's not pretend that there's not going to be. But teams have chosen to throw the ball against, or teams have chosen to run the ball against the Seahawks just 35.5% of the time, which is the second lowest mark in football. So again, Hasty, even if he does have that primary 1-2 down role and McKinnon is mixed in, is somewhat of a change of pace back, he's still probably looking at maybe 10 to 12 carries, and if he's not involved in the passing game too much, I don't want to have too high expectations for him, but he has looked good when he's been on the field. It's just when you get into that range of like 26 through 30, you're choosing between guys like Hasty, like Leonard Fournette, like James White, so Hasty is someone that I do think that you could play as probably like an RB3. There's just some risk attached to him.
Okay, so we are assuming at this point, because we talked a lot about this on the waiver wire, especially with you, Yates, about Tevin Coleman. Now, my understanding is he's been designated to return, meaning he's got this 21-day window, but we're not expecting him to play, right, Yates, in this game?
Yeah, as of right now, I'm not expecting him to play.
So what do you think about if he doesn't play, how do you feel generally speaking about Hasty and McKinnon, and which one would you start if forced to start one?
Yeah, I'd be looking to start Hasty just because I think that he is going to receive the majority of the work on the ground. Now, there's an opportunity for Jerick McKinnon. We can sit here and we can say based on all logic, based on projections, like McKinnon should be the one to be heavily involved in this offense, but we've had that previously. We've said, like, based on logic, McKinnon should be involved in this offense. Well, he's not. So I'm not as optimistic as you guys on McKinnon. I have McKinnon down at 33 right now. So I can certainly adjust that as we get more news. If we find out that, Shanahan comes out, gives him a vote of confidence or whatever. But as of right now, I'd be looking to start Hasty, and otherwise I'm just going to avoid Jerick
Where do you have
McKinnon.
Hasty, Yates?
I have Hasty right now in my projections at 21. That's way too high, but it's also because I have guys like with these injury concerns, right? Of guys like again, I have Mark Ingram in my rankings right now because we just got the news about him, and then Joe Mixon to Aaron Jones to all these other guys. So Hasty will move down as some of these other guys move up. Carlos Hyde, if he plays, like there will be movement. Hasty will not end at 21 in my rankings, but I think he's a solid play.
I don't really have a problem with Hasty at 21. I mean, we joke about this every week. We're at that range where you don't really like anybody who you're forced to start at this week. So even saying, oh, this guy's a low-end RB2 for me, that doesn't mean that you're particularly enamored of him. I mean, it just means you're like, where am I looking? I have almost exactly what Tags is doing with this. I'm completely hedging my bets. I have McKinnon at 25 and JaMycal Hasty at 26. I think you can get away with starting either one of them if you absolutely have to, but we would be lying if we said we really had confidence in how this backfield was going to break down against Seattle. But I do think if forced to choose as of this moment, it would be McKinnon by a hair. But I do think that you can get away with starting both of them. So, Yates, who's a guy for you then who's outside the top 20 in ECR who you're looking to start?
There really wasn't much in ECR that I differed from. So it was pretty difficult coming up with a guy. Just outside of that range is Justin Jackson. And I'm fine going back to Justin Jackson this week. I know that he kind of disappointed last week, didn't get the workload in a really good matchup. Herbert obviously went off and had a great game. So I think, but Justin Jackson, I have him at 19. So 22 to 19, it's not a big difference. But again, looking at these range of guys, I'd be saying, hey, Justin Jackson, he may have burned some fantasy managers last week. I think he belongs back in your starting lineup because, again, of his work in the receiving game. So I'm fine plugging Jackson back into my lineup.
What I love about our users is that they often have the same exact questions that I have. My first question to you, and it is the exact same most searched for question in our Who Should I Start tool, is would you rather start Joshua Kelly or Justin Jackson in this matchup?
Oh, Justin Jackson for sure.
So there's a big difference for you. Where do you have Kelly ranked?
I have Kelly at 34.
Wow. All right, Tags, do you see the situation playing out like that?
Yeah, I don't want to play Kelly. I have him as like literally a back end RB3. Like I don't want to play Joshua Kelly if I can help it. He has averaged 2.9 yards per carry or less in 4 of the last 5 games. Now going up against the Broncos, a team that's actually been really good against running back. They've allowed just 0.67 PPR points per opportunity, which is the second best in football, behind only the 49ers. So opportunity has been massive to them. And Kelly, he saw more of a role in the passing game last week, and I think it was because Justin Jackson was coming off that injury. And I will say, there's like a little asterisk here saying that you have to pay attention to the practice participation, because if Justin Jackson is back to practice in full, I'm going to trust him like 100%.
Yeah.
Now, as the week goes on, if we see more limited again from Justin Jackson, then I'm going to shorten that gap. But as of right now, I have Justin Jackson quite a bit ahead of Joshua Kelly.
All right, so in ECR, Justin Jackson is 22 and Joshua Kelly is 28. So, Yates, I think you said 34. Is that what you said for Kelly?
Yep.
All right, and what about you, Tags? Where do you have him right now?
Right now, I have Justin Jackson at 23, and I have Joshua Kelly at 37.
Okay, and I'm sorry, Yates, were you about to say something? Did I cut you off?
Nope, I just said correct.
All right. Yeah, this is, again, we do the show on Wednesday afternoon, so we don't have all of the information that you could. I could definitely see it going that way. I was a little worried because I want to make sure Jackson is totally healthy. When he is going to be the guy who ranks ahead. Right now, I'm kind of doing the same thing that I did with the San Francisco running backs, where I'm putting them right next to each other in kind of the mid to low 20s, and I want to wait for more things. But I agree that if we get positive practice reports, I would rather have Jackson certainly than Kelly. For me, again, this is, Yates, I think you called it. There usually are 1 or 2 guys who are outside the top 20 who I'm like, oh yeah, this is a guy who I'm really high on. There really aren't that many this week that I'm significantly higher than ECR. One guy who I'm at least a little bit higher, and I do like as a fairly decent start this week, is Leonard Fournette. And it's interesting, Tex, because I think you said that you would start McKinnon at least. I don't know about Hasty over Fournette this week. Is that right?
I would play McKinnon over Fournette, yes.
Okay. How about you, Yates, out of curiosity?
Yeah, I have Leonard Fournette at 27, and I have McKinnon at 33.
Okay. Yeah, so I have both of them higher, but I do have Fournette higher than this. I mean, he came back and had kind of a little bit of a bigger role than at least I expected last week. I knew they would go to the ground a lot. They went everywhere a lot against the Raiders, but 11 for 50 on the ground, 7 targets, 6 catches, 47 yards. I understood that they were way ahead, but I do think that he looks good. I mean, as much as Ronald Jones looks great, and I kind of bought in and was like, well, I don't really know how they're going to get away and start going to Leonard Fournette. They are. Bruce Arians is always going to do the thing that you don't really expect them to do. The Giants aren't a great matchup necessarily for running backs. They're not terrible. They're going to be playing probably from ahead. And there's no Chris Godwin here. And there's no Antonio Brown. So you could see them leaning a little bit more on the run. So for me, I like both Ronald Jones. This is so weird. We're talking about these multiple situations where you've got 2 guys that I think in a pinch, you can start both these guys in both these situations. So for me, right now, early rankings, I have Leonard Fournette 22nd. So I have him within the RB2 range. Do you and Tags, where did you say you had Fournette?
Fournette I have right now at 27.
Okay. All right. So that is somebody who you're willing to roll out there as a flex play. But you're not bullish on him getting, he got 17 touches last game. I assume you're thinking that was what? Because more of game script and they're going to be more heavily into Jones, or what?
I think, yeah. I mean, like you look at last weekend, the part where basically where the game changed was when Ronald Jones dropped a pass in the flats. That was like, it was just terrible.
Right.
And it's happened too many times with Ronald Jones, and they punished him for it. I thought he had a longer leash where that wasn't going to matter, but if he does that again, obviously he's going to go right to the bench. So there's always going to be risk, and there's always going to be reward by playing someone like Leonard Fournette, because he should have, where I have him ranked, right around that RB27. I think that's probably where he should be ranked, but there is upside built in there. It's almost like drafting someone like Kareem Hunt in season long, saying, yeah, he's going to be a flex play, but the upside is that he could be an RB1 if Nick Chubb's out. It's almost like one of those things on a daily basis with this backfield. So Leonard Fournette did steal the passing down role from LaShawn McCoy. He ran a ton of routes, 25 routes last week, got 7 targets. If that keeps up, that's a problem. But I expect this to be a very, very positive game script against the Giants, and it should involve a lot of running the football. So I'm leaning towards Jones here, but I can be swayed a little bit if we keep hearing more good things about Fournette.
I mean, I have Jones higher for sure. I mean, I just think this is a good spot for both of them. I have Jones right now at 17 and Fournette at 22. I just think this is a good spot for both of them, again, because you said it's going to be a positive game script. And I will take this situation where I at least feel confident that Fournette is going to get a lot of work coming in, then I will kind of throwing darts at the San Francisco situation where I think they're both going to factor in. I think they're both going to be. But if McKinnon gets no touches in this game, would it absolutely shock you? No, because we just saw that happen, and I realized I had an extra running back. But, Kyle Shanahan, man, he lives to mess with our minds. So I would rather take my shot there on Fournette. Let's go to wide receiver now. Let's talk about guys who are outside the top 30. Let's start with you, Yates. Who's a guy outside the top 30 who you're looking to start this week?
Yeah, as we look at the landscape right now, one of these guys who is barely rostered in Yahoo leagues. I was doing a video earlier today looking at some of the rostership percentages, and Rashard Higgins is still sitting there at like 11% owned in Yahoo leagues, and he is now a starting wide receiver in an NFL offense, and he's shown that he can be effective. So for him to be all the way at 42, I guess the experts are a little bit concerned with him and his potential role. I don't have those concerns. Now, granted, I'm not, sitting here and saying, hey, start him as a top 24 wide receiver or anything like that. But yet, I do think that he can be effective and be a solid wide receiver 3 with upside.
Yeah, I've got him 34th as well, Yates. He was on my list. Now, Tags, we talked about it on the waiver wire show. Rashard Higgins was not somebody who you were pretty high on. So what are you thinking this week?
I have him at wide receiver 40, which is actually 2 spots higher than ECR. So I'm not high on him. I'm not low on him. The matchup is not bad against the Raiders. It's just the volume concerns do not escape you here. I mean, is there a possibility that the Browns have Baker Mayfield drop back and throw the ball 22 times in this game? Absolutely there is, because Kareem Hunt should run all over them. The Raiders have been one of the worst run defenses in all of football. So, I mean, even targeting running backs has been very, very beneficial, and we know that they want to involve those running backs. Jarvis Landry's clearly I'll say the number one. Now, he's not a prototypical number one, but neither is Higgins. And we couldn't even guarantee that Odell Beckham was going to see like 7 targets a game because of the lack of volume in this offense. So I think he's fine as a wide receiver 4. I don't want to say he's a wide receiver 3 just yet, just because, again, we need more consistent volume out of this offense.
All right, so let's talk about a couple of people who've been put into our Who Should I Start tool. Yates, Rashard Higgins, or another guy who's been coming on lately, Nelson Aguilar.
I'll play Higgins.
How about you, Tags?
Yeah, I have Higgins over him.
Let's go to Rashard Higgins, Yates, or Sterling Shepard.
I'll actually play Sterling Shepard there.
And I'm sure Tags will play Sterling Shepard, right? Based on what we've heard.
Yep. Correct.
Okay, those are the 2 biggest ones, other than Rashard Higgins or Jarvis Landry. I know, Tags, you're going to be playing Landry over Rashard Higgins. How about you, Yates?
Yeah, Landry.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that as well. I do think that Aguilar is a guy who, I'd be willing to talk about here, but let's go to you first, Tags. Who's a guy outside the top 30 who you're looking to start?
Marquise Brown. I've actually been lower on Marquise Brown than everybody else, seemingly every single week. But this week I'm actually higher on him. I have him at 26, whereas ECR is 32. He leads the NFL in targets that have traveled over 20 yards in the air, and he's already gotten his bye week out of the way. And then you look at the Steelers, who have already had their bye. They've allowed 21 pass plays of 20-plus yards this season. That's the 12th most in the NFL. He's going to see Joe Hayden in coverage, which Joe Hayden's a good cornerback, but when he gets beat, it's typically for a big gain. He's allowed 14.4 yards per reception in coverage, including 3 receptions over 20 yards this year. He's also allowed 2 touchdowns over the last 3 games. Knowing that the Ravens are going to have trouble running the ball against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense, they're going to have to throw the ball a bit more than they'd want to. And Marquise Brown gives you some of that one-play upside and has seen plenty of targets and air yards. So I'm just playing the percentages here in terms of like this team passing more often than usual. I don't love Lamar Jackson this week or anything like that, but when the targets are weighted to one player against the Steelers defense, defense that has been bleeding some fantasy points. I think Marquise Brown's a fine play.
Love this call. This was my number one call as well, and I have him exactly where you do actually, Tags, at 26. I think, you basically made all the big points. He's getting the target share at least. He's got plenty of air yards, at least 6 targets in every game. The Steelers are not, keeping down wide receivers from a fantasy perspective. So I agree, closer to a wide receiver 2 here than he is sort of a low-end wide receiver 3 as ECR has him ranked. How about you, Yates? How are you feeling about Marquise Brown this week?
Right now, I'm pretty low on Marquise Brown. I've got him at 39, guys. So I think that based on what the argument Tags made, I need to go back and evaluate that again. But just with Marquise, I am projecting Lamar Jackson to struggle. I know that the Steelers have been giving up fantasy points to the wide receiver position, but yet at the same time, like Lamar Jackson, they're still really solid pass defense. And Lamar Jackson, from what I've seen as a passer, has not impressed me so far this year. So yeah, he can get those deep targets, but is he going to convert on them? So I think for him to finish where you guys have him, or even, arguably higher, he has to hit on that big play. And that's just not a space that I really want to be relying on. So I've said all season that he's this wide receiver 3 that comes with a wide range of outcomes every single week. He can win you a week or he can lose you a week because he gets 2 catches for 20 yards, So I just kind of want to stay in that range, but I will go back and reevaluate it.
Yeah, I mean, he does have at least 4 catches in every game but 1. So he has been a little more involved than I think I felt I got worried about early in the season. Yates, let me name a couple of guys out there who are right around him in ECR, and let me know if you would rather start these guys or Brown, okay? Brown, and let's do half PPR just to make it easy. Okay. Brown or Cole Beasley against New England?
This depends on if John Brown comes back. He did practice in full today, so I do expect him to come back. If that's the case, then start Marquise Brown.
Marquise Brown or Mike Williams against Denver?
Marquise Brown.
Brown or Parker against the Rams?
Devontae Parker, pretty easily.
Marquise Brown or A.J. Green against Tennessee?
I'll play A.J. Green.
Okay. How about you, Tags? Let me put those names to you. My guess, based on where you rank them, that you probably have Brown higher than all these guys, but Brown or Beasley, I assume that's Brown pretty easily, right?
I have Beasley at 29, so I like Beasley a lot.
Is that assuming that John Brown is out?
No, I had Brown playing, but I had him questionable, almost like limited all week. So now hearing that he's practiced in full, it's going to cause me to reevaluate that.
By the way, I would not, just as a general matter, at least the way I look at things, I don't know if it's right, but I don't really care that much about what somebody does on Wednesday, even if it's a full practice. I really don't, because I think we've seen before, especially even a guy like Brown, where we've been like, okay, this looks good, and then Thursday you're downgraded to limited because you pushed it a little too much. So I just wouldn't draw too many conclusions from the Wednesday practice, but again, the fantasy managers will have plenty of time. Go ahead, Tech. Sorry.
Yeah, no, so I thought the names you brought up were like fantastic because I'm not kidding, Dan. My rankings go Marquise Brown 26, AJ Green 27, Devontae Parker 28, Cole Beasley 29.
Okay. All right, so you're right there. Mike Williams, lower than that?
Mike Williams is lower. Yeah, he's at 39.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Mike Williams is up where he is in ECR. So, okay, that's good. Well, Yates, you'll take a look at Marquise Brown. I will ask you your exact ranking on Dan and Kyle in the morning on Friday so we can know there. So you guys named the top 2 guys on my list. I will name one more that I'm a little higher on than ECR, and that's Corey Davis. He's at 35 in ECR. I have him 30th, at least 5 targets in every game, at least 5 catches or a touchdown in every game, at least 69 yards or a touchdown in every game. The Titans should win against the Bengals. I get it. So this might be a game where it's just Derrick Henry unleashed. But given his pretty, when he's been in there, of course, he missed a couple of games here with the COVID-19 reserve list. Given how involved he has been, generally speaking, getting a consistent amount of targets and the fact that he's, finding the end zone on occasion, he's a guy who I'm, he's ranked as a wide receiver 3. That's where I have him. But I'm a little more willing to start him than some of the guys around him. Let's go with you, Yates. How do you feel about Corey Davis this week?
I have him 2 spots lower than ECR. But again, as a high-end wide receiver 4, low-end wide receiver 3 at 37. So I'm fine plugging him into your lineup.
How about you, Tex?
I have Corey Davis. I have at 42.
Wow, that's low.
It is, and I honestly, I could play around. That's the area I'm playing around with the most is like when you get to like that wide receiver 38 through 43 is like I'm playing around. So I could probably put him up to 37, 38 if I wanted to.
Okay. All right. Well, you don't have to. You do whatever you want. But let me give some who should I start because I imagine we're going to be different on this one. Tags, Corey Davis versus Sterling Shepard.
Sterling Shepard.
Yates.
Yeah, Sterling Shepard for me.
Yeah, I've got Davis ahead by by a couple of spots here. So I'm willing to go with Davis there. Again, I don't hate Sterling Shepard whatsoever. How about Corey Davis, Yates, or Nelson Aguilar?
I'll play Aguilar.
Yeah, tags?
I will play Corey Davis there.
So where do you guys have Nelson Aguilar? Because he was another guy on my list. He is 50th in ECR. That's
I'm 45.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. Yeah, how about you, Yates?
I've got him at 33 right now.
I've got him at 39, so I'm also pretty, higher than him. And somebody, I forget, I think it was either about my rest of season rankings or wherever I had Nelson Aguilar. People are pretty fired up, maybe Raiders fans. Look, it's a good matchup, and Derek Carr is gonna need to throw in this game. He's got a touchdown in 3 straight games. The Browns have allowed, I think, 11 touchdowns to wide receivers on the year. I mean, there's a lot of goodness here, and Aguilar. I'm not saying he's over the dropsies that have plagued him his entire career, but he's been involved. So it's interesting. It's somebody who I'm struggling with a little bit, Tags, and we talked about it a little bit on Sunday night about how to rank him going forward. So you had him where, did you say, Tags? 45th?
45th, yeah. I'm curious where you guys have Henry Ruggs.
That's a good question. I have Ruggs 40th. How about you?
I have Ruggs at 42.
What about you?
Okay, so you got to flip-flop. I have Ruggs at 36. I have Aguilar 45.
I think it all depends on who you project to get the touchdown.
Right. Yeah. And, given the fact that Aguilar's had a little nose for the end zone lately, he's the one who I am projecting. But either way, we are all higher on Aguilar than expert consensus ranking. And he is a guy who is surely available on your waiver wire unless, they've run already maybe. But if not, he's a guy who you can plug in and get away with as a flex option, or maybe a wide receiver 3 if a lot of guys are rostered.
Hey, Yates, I got a question for you. Nelson Aguilar or T.Y. Hilton?
Well,
welcome to 2020. Nelson Aguilar.
Wait, hold on. It's our weekly check. Yates, give me your ranking on T.Y. Hilton, please.
I'm scrolling.
Does it go down that far? Does
62.
Tags, where do you have him?
I'm at 44.
I am at 42. Oh man, and ECR. Oh, Tags, we're higher. We're higher than ECR. Boy, that really hurts.
No, that's not good.
My feelings, but I have to do it. Darn it. Okay, it doesn't matter. T.Y. Hilton breakout game, all coming. Okay, let's go to quarterbacks here. Let's go to guys who are outside the top 12 in ECR. Tags, who you might be looking to start. Who are you looking at here?
Oh man, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Derek Carr.
Yes, you are. That's right.
That's the correct answer?
That is the correct answer.
Sweet. All right. Now, he's had at least 19.3 fantasy points in 3 straight games. He's been consistent. I mean, he has 8.2 yards per attempt this year. Last week was the first time he did not complete at least 71% of his passes. So when you look at the matchup against the Browns this week, you're like, wait a minute. Teams have averaged 40.7 pass attempts against them. Teams are throwing the ball. I mean, the 64.1% of the time, that's the 3rd highest mark in the league. So Derek Carr should be throwing the ball. If he gets close to that 40 attempts that they're allowing, he's a lock for like 300 yards. Henry Ruggs is a guy that should match up well with that secondary where he can get open deep. We've talked about it, guys. We were just arguing back and forth about Ruggs and Aguilar and guys that are basically borderline wide receiver 3s, high-end wide receiver 4s, and it's like, which one? The reason that we're talking about them is because the matchup is good. It's possible that both of them actually perform against this Browns team because the Browns, as a defense as a whole, they've allowed 107.5 fantasy points per game. That is the 4th highest number in football. So basically, it is a matchup to attack. You just have to find where the production is going to come from. And Derek Carr, I mean, there's just not a reason to doubt him with the way that he's playing right now.
So where do you have him? He's 15th in ECR Tags. Is that... Where are you?
Yeah, I'm not much higher on him. I have him, I think, 13.
Yep.
So it's difficult with quarterbacks to argue with ECR where it's at, but I have Derek Carr a couple spots higher.
I will let me make that point as well. Whenever we're talking about it's hard to find too much differentiation in the top 12. There's not usually running back, wide receiver. There are so many players that you need to start that you'll often find these massive gaps between where you have them and where ECR is. With quarterback, it's a little different because like the top 6 or 7 are relatively stable every week, and that's a quarter of the position. I agree with you though, Tags. Carr was the guy on my list. I'm 12th, so I think we're right around. He's also a huge superstar in the Harris household because again, my son drafted a backup quarterback for his fantasy team. It was Derek Carr. The week Cam Newton had to be out, every week he just agonizes over now whether to start Derek Carr or Cam Newton. I think he's going with Carr this week, I hope. Anyway, Yates, first, how do you feel about Carr?
Yeah, I've got him right in line with ECR. So I've got him at 15. I think he is a solid streaming candidate this week. I'm sure that he's still there on your waiver wire. So if you're in need of a quarterback, I would go pick him up. And, I mean, Tags, you talked about how good he's been. Like, the past 3 games for him, QB finishes of 16, 9, and 12. So he's been in that range, and I think that you can start him confidently against the Cleveland Browns here.
Yeah, he's had multiple touchdowns in 5 straight games. He's had 3 touchdowns in 2 of them. It's and he's playing well. I mean, you watch him play. For the most part, he's playing well. Darren Waller isn't well. He's getting involved as receivers.
Right, and that's why I forgot to mention, too. It's like we're talking about those 2 wide receivers, and then you have he's definitely a top 3 tight end this week.
Yeah.
It's just difficult to obviously put him over Kelsey or Kittle, but
right.
Yeah.
So Yates, who's your guy then outside the top 12 in ECR? Who you like a little more this week?
Yeah, Derek Carr was on my list. The guy that I'll go, I have him 1 spot above Derek Carr. I'm going back to Kirk Cousins, guys, and it's looking at the opportunity for him. Yes, he has been turning the ball over like crazy, and yes, you might want to close your eyes and just look at the box score when it's all said and done. But I mean, the Vikings defense is not good. And they just traded away Yannick Ngakoue, so it's going to get even worse. Like they're mailing it in this season. They're saying, hey, we're not competing in this division, so let's get some of these players away that we're not going to be able to pay next year. And they're going to have to throw the ball a ton. So I think, again, in a game where I expect points to go up on the board, just like with Atlanta, we could see Kirk Cousins push 40 pass attempts. And if that's the case, with his receivers of Thielen, Jefferson, Irv Smith, and Dalvin Cook out of the backfield, who should be back this week, then man, I'm rolling with Kirk Cousins if I need a streaming quarterback.
I'm a little conflicted on this one, Tags, because I see both the positive and the negative here for Cousins. So where do you have him ranked this week?
I have Cousins as QB 19.
That's where I have him as well, but go ahead.
The reason I'm struggling with it is because the Vikings average just 59 plays per game. The Packers have allowed just 60 plays per game to their opponent, which is the 3rd lowest in football. So it's a lower floor than I would like as a streamer. Kirk Cousins has absolutely no rushing upside, and there's been games this year where he's just looked like crap as a passer. And if he's off his game as a passer, he's screwed. Yep. And I mean, the Packers have talked about that they want to run the football more, which means more playing keep away, which means going back to that week 1 game. I think in that week 1 game against the Packers, if I'm not mistaken, I think they ran 48 offensive plays in that game. The Vikings did.
Pulled it up.
So yeah, that's my issue.
47.
52.
47.
Wow. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's basically what you have to worry about with the floor. There's guys like Jimmy Garoppolo out there that I think offer a more stable floor in the matchup they're playing.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I came out as well with it. It's hard because I do see, the likely scenario that they're going to be playing from behind. And again, you saw it last week where not last week, the week before, where he was maybe the worst quarterback I've ever seen in the first half. But, they were so far behind that he just let it fly nonstop and wound up with a decent fantasy day. You could see that happening again. But again, I don't think there are going to be that many plays to go around to allow him to do that. For me, my guy, again, would be Carr. A guy, he still falls outside of my top 12, but he's 19th in ECR. I have him a little higher than that. That's Baker Mayfield, who I have at 15 right now. Again, it's not a huge difference when you're looking in this range, and I'm not trying to start Baker Mayfield. But again, it's a good matchup against Las Vegas. I do agree, Tags, you kind of mentioned it before. They will most likely lean on the run as much as possible. But I do think that you saw how good the, Mayfield can be even without Beckham. And of course, there's all these rumors now, there's all this talk about, is he better without Odell Beckham Jr. or anything like that. But I do think given the efficiency of the offense, given how they're going to be able to move the ball, that so long as it's not every time they get down to the end zone that they just let Hunt run it in, that he's a guy who's going to be able, as he involved both tight ends last week, that he's going to be able to probably find the end zone a couple of more times. And so for me, he's more of he's still a QB2, but he's a guy who's a little higher than 19th in my rankings. Let's go to tight end. Start with you, Yates. Outside the top 12, who do you like this week?
Well, I wanted to go back to Baker really quick because
I'm sorry.
This is an oversight on my part. Dan, I was looking at my rankings. I got caught on Derek Carr, looking up some things, and then saw Kirk Cousins right above. I have Baker Mayfield at 13, right above Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr. So that might come down a little bit just because of, like you said, Tags, with the game script here. But we just saw Baker in a very similar matchup with the Bengals defense here throw for 5 touchdowns. So I think he has to do it on the back of efficiency with finding the end zone. But yet, if I like Rashard Higgins, if I like Jarvis Landry, then I got to like Baker Mayfield. So yeah, he's absolutely someone that we should be looking at.
Tags, where do you have Mayfield ranked this week?
So I feel pretty bad right now because I have him down at 21. But I could see it both ways. My issue is that Mayfield, last week, it was a season high what he had for completions. 22 passes is what he completed. Mm-hmm. There, 5 of the 6 opponents that have played the Raiders have completed at least 22 pass attempts. So it's you think about that. And the one thing I do like about Baker is that they're not a better football team without Odell Beckham. That's just the dumbest thing to say. However, I do feel like Baker Mayfield sometimes forced the issue in terms of feeling the need to push the ball towards Odell Beckham, and therefore this could make him play a little bit looser and not worry about that and just kind of go through his progressions like he normally would back in college. He had Mark Andrews back there, which he obviously went to him quite a bit, but it might make him a better quarterback. However, last week, it was still the first game all year where he has scored more than 15.6 fantasy points. Mm-hmm. He's still risky as hell. So, I'd probably rather play guys like Cousins because I think that there's shootout potential there. I don't know. The one thing that does help Mayfield, and I might move him up, is that the team implied total is 28.5 points. Mm-hmm. That's really that. I love Kareem Hunt. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about Kareem Hunt in the DFS show tomorrow. He's someone that probably could finish as the RB1 this week, but 28. Still, that's basically projecting them for 4 touchdowns. So even if Kareem Hunt gets 2 of them, you're talking about Mayfield for 2 of them. I could be wrong on this one, basically, right. Is what I'm saying.
That's really what I have, by the way, right now. Kareem Hunt is my second ranked running back on the week. So I'm completely with you there. I think they're going to be able to put up points. But so long as Kareem Hunt does not score every touchdown in the game, you figure Mayfield might be able to at least put up a decent amount of points. And I do expect them to play well. Let me put a couple names out there for you, Tags, and then we'll move on to tight end. Mm-hmm. Would you rather start Baker Mayfield or Ben Roethlisberger against Baltimore?
I have them right back-to-back at 20 and 21. I don't like either of them. And if you look at Roethlisberger's history against Baltimore over the last, I think, 5 years, which is still the same coaching staff. Mm-hmm. I know they're different teams and all that stuff, but he had Antonio Brown, and I think just one game he had multiple touchdowns. It's not good. In Baltimore. When they play in Baltimore.
How about Baker or Cam Newton at Buffalo?
I'll play Cam. The floor should be there.
How about you, Yates, in that one?
I'll go Baker. I have Cam pretty far down my rankings this week.
Yeah. Ditto. I have Baker higher. Okay, let's go to tight end. Yates, let's go to you then. Outside the top 12, who are you looking to start?
Yeah, thanks for my tangent there. With Hayden Hurst, I'm going Hayden Hurst, guys. Hayden Hurst at 15 in ECR. I'm a little confused why he's all the way down there. Granted, the Carolina Panthers have been playing phenomenal defense, and they are drastically outperforming what we expected of them coming into the season. But yet, Hayden Hurst, in a dynamic offense, should be able to at least reel in enough targets and catches here to be able to finish within the top 12. So to rank him at 15, I feel like is a little bit too low for me.
How about Hayden Hurst or Robert Tonyan against Minnesota?
I will go with Hayden Hurst there.
You like that pronunciation, Yates?
I did. That was good.
How about you, Tags? Who do you have higher there, Tags?
I'd play Robert Tonyan over Hayden Hurst this week.
Yeah, I have Tonyan at 12 and Hurst at 15. Again, not a bad start. And when you get to this range at tight end, it's just, it's a little bit flying blind a little bit. How about you, Tags? Who's your tight end who's outside the top 12?
Well, be prepared to get a 0 from this guy because every time I recommend him, he literally flops.
Okay.
Mike Gesicki.
Yeah.
I do like him. His finishes have been maddening. He's finished as a tight end 24, number 2, 15, 45, 7, 76. That's not great. Tua Tagovailoa is, they threw him into the fire, man. He's going to be under a lot of pressure against this Rams defense. And Devontae Parker and Preston Williams, get this, those two rank as the number 1 and number 3 worst wide receivers in football in terms of separation at target. So Tua Tagovailoa is going to be forced to throw into tight coverage against Jalen Ramsey and their other cornerback. I'm forgetting his name right now. Darius Williams. He's been so good too.
Yeah, he has.
Arguably better than Jalen Ramsey this year. But they've been playing so well. So it's you look at those matchups, and as a rookie, you don't want to put the ball into harm's way. So why not look for Mike Gesicki? The Rams have struggled with tight ends a little bit, and Gesicki actually was working with the scout team throughout the offseason. So he's actually had plenty of work with Tua.
Right.
I think Gesicki's a sneaky tight end one play, and I was tempted to put him as a top 6 tight end. I ultimately settled at number 9, but I'm really scared about this because it never fails, guys. Every single time I recommend Gesicki, he just I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, well, you have to. That's what we're talking about. Yates, where do you have Gesicki? Because when Tags said 6, if you're watching the YouTube channel, I think my eyes bugged out of my head. Yates, where do you have
I have
Gesicki?
at 6. I said I wanted to.
No,
put him
you've
there.
got him at 4. I get it. Yates, where do you have Gesicki this week?
I have Gesicki at 18 and Adam Shaheen at 19. I don't.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
what?
welcome to 2020. I'm just.
Dude, no! Stop
both of
doing
these.
that. No.
Stop. I am not recommending Adam Shaheen. It's just where he came out in my rankings, okay? Because I projected him with a touchdown. Neither of these guys you should be looking at, in my opinion.
Okay. All right.
To be clear, the reason I gave you crap about that is because Gesicki, over the last 2 games, Gesicki's run 50 routes. Shaheen has run 14. I mean, I understand he has a growing role in the offense, but it was more happenstance in terms of touchdowns. He was in the right place at the
it's
right
interesting, too. They just gave him that contract extension, too, which wasn't a small contract extension either for what he's done on the field. So
hey, a guy that the Bears actually could have used.
I know, right?
Wait a minute. Oh, no, Jimmy Graham's that guy. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just put the fine point on it. Tags, I assume then that you are starting Mike Gesicki over Hayden Hurst.
Yes.
Yates, you were starting Hayden Hurst over Mike Gesicki.
Pretty easily. Yep.
Okay. I will be the tiebreaker, and I have Mike Gesicki 1 spot ahead of Hayden Hurst.
No.
14 or 15. They are projected 0.1 fantasy points difference, so a huge edge if you go with Gesicki there. But okay, I don't really have anybody outside the top 12 that I'm really excited to start. One guy I have a little higher than ECR, and this is saying a little higher, where his ECR is 20 and I have him 17. Is Harrison Bryant, just because I do expect Austin Hooper to be out here. We already talked about Baker Mayfield. I expect him to be have a pretty good game here. There aren't that many options for targets. You saw them involve Bryant. You saw them involve their tight ends. The Raiders aren't the best matchup for tight ends or anything like that, but I do think that with the way the offense works, he'll be more involved to be more of like a mid-range tight end too. Again, nothing I'm excited about, but somebody who, if you're in, tight end premium leagues or anything like that, you might be able to get away with.
Richard Rodgers can be streamed.
Yeah.
Yes, Richard Rodgers is very good. Where do you have Richard Rodgers?
14.
Yates.
12.
11 for me. Go ahead, Yates.
I was going to say I would start Harrison Bryant over Mike Gesicki.
Ugh.
Okay. All right. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna get the fire from Tags at this point. Let's go to our top sits, guys. These are not guys we are saying get away from entirely, but guys we're a little lower on than ECR guys within the top 20. Let's start with you, Tags.
Why is Devin Singletary ranked as high as he is?
Where do you have Devin Singletary ranked? And then let's talk about this for a minute.
Yeah, I want to talk about it because I don't get it. Like, someone explain it to me. I have him at RB 34.
And Yates, where do you have Singletary before we get into his ECR?
I have him at 32, which is right where I had him last week. And, I mean, he was ranked at 18 in ECR. He's at 21 right now.
Why? What?
Tell me why we should rank him higher.
I don't have it.
Are you saying why is he ranked at ECR, or why are we bringing him up?
Oh, goodness. I'm so sorry. Why is he ranked at ECR? Okay. Like, what is... I don't understand. Like, when is the last time that you have...
Tags was so ready to fight.
I apologize.
The disappointment in his voice. Oh.
I apologize. It was more at that I wanted to make sure that the three of us are on the same page because I don't understand this ranking whatsoever. Like, in what world are we starting Devin Singletary at this point as an RB2? Where are we?
I don't know. I mean, the Bills running backs have averaged completely, like not Devin Singletary, completely as a team, they've averaged 20.7 running back touches per game. Last week, we saw Zack Moss get just as many touches as Devin Singletary, and he performed better.
Yep.
This team I think that they've gotten away from the run too much. I think that they've put too much on Josh Allen's shoulders. Yep. They need to get back to the way that they used to play, and maybe that will get some confidence back in. John Brown coming back to the offense is going to help, but Devin Singletary is losing this job. Like TJ Yeldon played better than him. He got on the field. I have Zack Moss ranked ahead of Devin Singletary this week.
I was looking at this earlier. Zack Moss's snap count percentage, and remember that he was coming off of his foot injury.
Yep.
In week 6, 25% of the offensive snaps. Week 7, 46%. Okay, so that's a significant jump. Devin Singletary in week 6, 76% down to 54% last week. I expect that number to just continue to drop.
Yep.
Matt, do you have Moss ahead of Singletary as well, Yates?
I do. Yep.
Ooh, all right. I mean,
Dan.
I do not yet, but they're close in my rankings. They're 3 spots out. I have Singletary 31st, and I have Zack Moss 34th. So we're in the same range. but I will take another look at it. I completely agree. I mean, Devin Singletary, was the guy who obviously stuck out to me as a guy who was like, wait, what?
Well, and
what is
think about
happening
it,
right
and think about it this way. Like, so some people might be looking at J.K. Dobbins or Devin Singletary. The reason I will 100% say Dobbins, which doesn't say that in ECR right now, the reason I will say that is because what's the upside with Devin Singletary? He gets 80 total yards and doesn't score a touchdown?
Right.
Because he doesn't get goal line work?
Yeah. I don't get it. I really don't. I don't understand this. I mean, we'll see where the ECR gets as we get closer to game time. Like, maybe he'll generally move down. But right now, yeah, it's like 10 spots at least too high. So we're all in agreement there. Yates, was that your guys or anybody else who stuck out to you?
He had just fallen outside the criteria, so I didn't want to mention him. But
yeah, I didn't want to mention that technically Tags broke the rules because you're supposed to be inside the top 20. But that's
but
fine.
for sure he would be my answer. But if we are going to stick to the rules, Tags, I will go. I'll go with Zeke. I mean, Zeke up at 5 in ECR, and I know that it's crazy to say that Ezekiel Elliott should be someone that you sit or at least adjust your expectations. I mean, guys, I've got him at 17 on the week.
Wow. All right. That's spicy.
If we have Ben DiNucci as the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, you're telling me that you want to put Zeke into your starting lineup?
So I like to my son. I like to tell stories about my son. He was going up against Andy Dalton in his only league, and he was watching, and he realized Andy Dalton was out, and he said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Oh, that's Ben DiNucci." And I just thought his response is hilarious. His response was, "That's not a real person." And I was like, I mean, it is actually, and it's a professional quarterback who's better at throwing a football than you will ever be at anything in your life. But still, that sort of sums up where we are with Ben DiNucci. Tags,
Way to be a dad.
where do you have Zeke ranked this week, Tags?
Oh my God, I am at 10.
Okay.
So I'm a little lower on him as well than the consensus is. But I mean, the opportunity he's getting is massive. But if you look at the matchup against the Eagles, I mean, nobody has been able to crack 81 yards on the ground against them. And even if you go back to the start of last year, they've allowed just 4 running backs to top 66 yards in their last 23 games. That's stupid.
That defensive line up against this Cowboys offensive line.
Especially if Zach Martin's out again.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no, thank you. I mean, Zeke has finished back-to-back weeks as the RB35. Like, both weeks, RB35.
I get it. So, I mean, and just to be clear, like, you're starting Zeke. He's 17th in your ranking. So you're not saying whatever you do, don't start Zeke. Right. It's just much more about, like, why is he 5? I have him 8th, but he is somebody who I'm like, man, I don't like him there. And I'm looking if I legitimately rostered him and the couple of guys behind him. Would I really start Zeke over those guys? And the answer is probably not. My guy's just DeAndre Swift. Not a huge difference. He's at 17 in ECR. I'm 20th. He is producing more, but you still got Peterson working in plenty of snaps. Indianapolis is very good against running backs. They're getting healthier with the bye week. So he's a guy who I'm not quite as excited. Again, I'm still starting DeAndre Swift as an RB2, but I'm not quite as high on him as ECR. Wide receiver within the top 20, within the top 30. Guys, there is one correct answer to this. An actual correct answer. Yates, I'm going to allow... let me just double check to make sure he is still within the top 30. Yates, what is the correct answer to the wide receiver within the top 30 who you are fading?
It's got to be CeeDee Lamb, right?
It is CeeDee Lamb, of course. Tags, was that your guy as well? Please tell me.
So I mean, I think that you could argue the same thing with another slot receiver that I have right next to CeeDee Lamb in the rankings, and it's JuJu Smith-Schuster.
Okay. All right.
I think both of them are pretty bad starts this week.
All right. So there was not apparently one correct answer. So let's give very quickly. Yates, let's start with Lamb. He is 29th in ECR. Where is he in your rankings?
41.
Tags, where is CeeDee Lamb in your rankings?
I have CeeDee Lamb at 31.
What? So this is not the correct answer, Tags?
I guess it's not. He actually has the best matchup on the field.
Ben DiNucci's not a real person.
Period. DiNucci. Period.
But he's better at anything, at throwing a football, than anything you'll ever be in your entire life, and your son, and your daughter, and everybody else in this world.
Very true. Very true.
But in reality, I don't want to like totally 100% hit like the crazy panic button on CeeDee Lamb. But it's definitely worrisome. I'm not going to say that he's. I would rather play Cole Beasley than both these guys.
Yeah.
So that's basically where I'm at. So I'm not a big fan of CeeDee Lamb, but he does have a decent matchup. And let's not pretend that they're going to throw the ball for 80 yards this week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they'll at least get to 90.
90.
I've got Lamb at 36, so I'm not quite as low as Yates, but he's certainly somebody who's like within the top 30. Yikes, stuck out. But so JuJu, I'm not that far. I mean, JuJu, I believe, is what, 27th in ECR. I have him 29th. Yates, where do you have JuJu Smith-Schuster?
I have him at 34, so in the same range.
So Tags, where do you have him?
33.
Okay, all right. So it's, again, this is somebody who you're not like completely running from. You still have him as a wide receiver 3. You're just a little less bullish.
It just depends on what you want in your lineup, right? Like if you're looking for boring, low end wide receiver 3, maybe production.
Yep.
I guess play JuJu. But if you're looking for somebody that has a little bit more upside, I might rather play someone like Henry Ruggs.
Okay. All right. But you have JuJu ranked ahead of Ruggs.
Yeah, I do, because you have to bake in ceiling and floor, and I have that conversation all the time, and it just depends sometimes on lineup decisions. But I mean, all in all, the Ravens have allowed just 5 wide receivers to finish better than wide receiver 35, and 4 of those guys were like crazy fast wide receivers, like Terry McLaurin, Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, and Brandon Cooks. Yeah.
So, Tags, let me ask you something. Where do you have Chase Claypool this week?
So that's someone that I almost put in the sit thing, because I could not believe that I just didn't want to talk about him because I know that there's upside with him.
Whoa, he's at 25?
Yeah, I have him at 37.
Don't you guys do your jobs, man? This is
I know,
our thing.
I did, but I almost didn't want to talk about him, and I'm going to say the reason, because I talked about Ruggs. I didn't mention him as a start because I don't think that he's a guy that's a plug and play. You automatically have to play him. I think the same thing about Chase Claypool. I think he's a guy that can get behind Marcus Peters in coverage and break one big play for a touchdown, and then all of a sudden it's like, you're an idiot, Tags. What are you doing? I would rather tell you not to play someone like JuJu Smith-Schuster, where I know exactly what you're getting, and it's not great. So it just depends on. Because I don't want to sound like an idiot, because Chase Claypool, to me, this week is a high-end wide receiver 4 who has major boom or bust potential. And if you want to play someone with some upside over someone that's boring, like a Julian Edelman, like a JuJu Smith-Schuster, play Chase Claypool. But wide receiver 25, I think, in the ECR, that's bananas.
Right. And so I have him 32nd. And when I did my rankings, I was like, oh, God, I'm going to be like the high guy on Chase Claypool this week, right? I was like, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep him there for now, and I'll reevaluate as we go on. And then I looked, and I was like, 25th? Yeah. That makes no sense. But you're right, Tex. He does have that potential to just get by the defense and make a huge play and make everybody look like idiots. But 25th seemed nuts to me. Yates, you obviously expressed disbelief.
I don't know how I missed that. That's ridiculous. I have him at 46 this week. I mean, looking at Claypool, it is oh my word, I still can't believe that. I mean, Claypool's in the same kind of conversation as Mecole Hardman. Like, why are we pretending that those two are different players right now?
Claypool's actually on the field, so that helps.
That's fair. But as far as a target share, or target difference, what's the difference?
Why should someone play Chase Claypool over AJ Green this week?
Right. People want to lean on
I have Chase Claypool one spot behind AJ Green. That's kind of how I feel about it. I don't,
I guess it's a philosophy difference. People want to chase the big blow up play. They want to chase the performance, the boom potential. But AJ Green, I want to lean into target share. I want to lean into guaranteed volume and roles here. And AJ Green, I have at 31. Chase Claypool at 46.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not quite that down on him for basically the reasons the tag said, but 25th is crazy to me and stuck out like a sore thumb. All right, Woody has lost control of the timing for this show, so let's move a little faster here. It's the hat. Let's move a little faster here towards the end. Yates, let's start with you. Anybody within the top 12 in quarterbacks who you're kind of fading this week?
Not really. There wasn't anyone that I looked at and was like, oh yeah, you got to get him out of your starting lineup. I mean, Matt Ryan was the only one that jumped out to me, but I don't have him significantly further than where he is at 10, so I'm fine still playing Matt Ryan.
How about you, Tags?
I think Wentz is a little bit high at 6. I understand why you'd want to play him against the Cowboys because they're the terrible defense. Yeah. But, I mean, I worry about lack of competition in that game. I really do. The Cowboys have scored 13 points the last 2 weeks. That's I just don't see them having to throw the ball a whole lot, and therefore Carson Wentz his upside is going to take a hit. And to finish as a top 6 quarterback, which is where he's ranked, you need to score like 25 fantasy points.
Yeah, Ryan was a guy who I'm slightly lower on than ECR, which is 10th. I have him 13th. Again, that sounds bigger than it actually is because the difference in projected fantasy points is so minimal at that point. But I agree, a little too high for me as of right now in ECR. Tags, how about tight end? Anybody within the top 12-ish to give you a little room that you're looking to fade?
Yeah, not a big fan of Hawkinson this week.
Okay. Where is he in your rankings? He's 8th in ECR.
Yeah, I have him at 12 among tight ends. So, I mean, it's not crazy low, but he hasn't topped 7 targets in a single game. He's been consistently getting like 4 or 5 of them. And then the Colts have been like ridiculous against tight ends. They've allowed 0.84 PPR points per target. That's the lowest mark in the NFL. All
right, let's and Yates, was that your guy?
Yep, completely. The Colts are allowing 2.3 fantasy points on average to the position.
Yep, yeah. Hawkinson I'm lower on him than ECR as well. Let's get to our top deep sleeper. Yates, give me a running back who is outside the top 36, who you might be looking to start this week.
Man, it's really difficult because you're looking at some of these guys, and ECR is all over the place right now because we don't have the injury information here. I mean, LaMichael Pirine at 37, I'm going to say him because I have him. I was surprised that I have him at 28 on the week. So, I mean, that just kind of tells you about the running back landscape right now. So I'll say Pirine. I think if you're in a pinch, you can plug him into your lineup.
That's actually the guy who I had too, Yates. I don't have him quite that high.
Way to play the system, guys. RB 37.
You're welcome.
Well, what? We totally played.
I mean,
it's actually outside the top 36. we listened to the criterion and made our selection, and we just happened to do it so well. I agree. I think this is a decent spot to the extent you can call it that for Pirine because they're going to be chasing points. I do think that he'll get more involved. He ran a lot of routes last week, and you can't give Frank Gore 15 carries when you're behind by Adam Gase can. Adam Gase can. But I do think that Pirine is a guy you can get away with as a flex this week. How about you tag somebody who, I don't know, whatever you want to do. Choose within like the top 10 who you think should be in the top 8 or whatever.
Oh, stop it. So if you're sitting there right now listening to the podcast, pull up whatever Yahoo, ESPN, whatever it is that you play fantasy on, pull it up and grab DeeJay Dallas. We don't know what's going on with Carlos Hyde, so we know that Chris Carson's not going to play. Carlos Hyde is dealing with a hamstring injury, so DeeJay Dallas just might be a workhorse running back. I know it's not a great matchup against the 49ers, but he'd walk into 15-plus touches, a guy that I have ranked at 38 right now, and that's with Hyde expected to play in somewhat of a limited fashion, but I would not be surprised if Hyde doesn't play here, and that DeeJay Dallas is the guy that you actually want.
Yeah, I think DeeJay Dallas, of course, is somebody who you want to keep an eye on. I'm not sure how I would feel about him necessarily. So you have him ranked where tags, assuming that Hyde plays? Where'd you say?
38, because even if Hyde plays the matchup against San Francisco, it's better through the air against them, and that's where DeeJay Dallas is going to play the majority of his role, and Hyde might not be 100%. So I have Hyde at 21, and I have DeeJay Dallas at 38. But if you were to tell me that Hyde was going to miss this game, Travis Homer was going to miss this game, Chris Carson's going to miss this game, I would move DeeJay Dallas all the way up to probably around RB 24.
Wow. Okay. All right. I certainly don't have a huge problem with that, assuming that those guys are out. But with him in, and I'm assuming right now that Carlos Hyde's going to be in, I have DeeJay Dallas higher than ECR, which I think is 58? I have him in the low 50s for me. Let's go to wide receiver here, guys. Let's go to you tags. Who's outside the top 50 that you might be looking to start this week?
I'm going to go with a really deep one here. Kendrick Bourne.
Dang
He's with Deebo Samuel out of the lineup, the Seattle Seahawks have faced an average of 31.3 wide receiver targets per game. There are 2 teams in the NFL who have not seen as many pass attempts per game as they have seen wide receiver targets. They've somehow already allowed 15 wide receivers to hit 11.5 PPR points, and they've only played 6 games. So, I mean, do the math here. I think that if you're looking for someone that's available on like legitimately 99% of waiver wires, Kendrick Bourne can give you a decent floor, especially in like a PPR format.
And that was your guy too, Yates?
Yeah, I was so proud of myself earlier today. Looking at it, I was like, I got Kendrick Bourne, plugging him into my lineup if I can because this is a smash spot for him. He's going to be a starter in this offense. Dang it, tags.
Yeah. I think you could steal Curtis Samuel.
I'm good.
All right, well, 2 guys that stuck out to me were Scotty Miller. Given that Chris Godwin is out, given that Antonio Brown has not returned yet against the Giants, he's 53rd. Right now, I have him ranked significantly higher than that. I have him ranked 37th. Now, we've seen Miller disappoint in games without Godwin before, but I do think that this is certainly the last, but a good chance for Scotty Miller to be relevant. And another guy for me was Greg Ward, who is 56th right now. Again, what is it now? A calf with Alshon? What's bothering?
Yeah,
he's not
past the foot issue, but now has a calf strain.
All right, so I will reduce my recommendation for his waiver wire bid to just 10% of your budget at this point. So Greg Ward, it's a great matchup against Dallas. No Deshaun Jackson, no Alshon Jeffrey, so I think he could get targets. There are some deep guys here who you can get away with this week. Okay, we usually do a little lightning round, but we are way over, so I will have our producer yell at me, and I will go to your start of the week. Yates, who is your start of the week for week 8 of the fantasy football season?
I mean, if we're just looking at these guys that we might have questions, Travis Fulgham, get him into your lineup. I know that he's within, ECR has him ranked pretty high, but my goodness, this is a fantastic matchup for him. I have him all the way up at 14 this week, guys.
Yeah, he's 20th in ECR. I cannot argue with 14th whatsoever, given the guys who are right there. It's a great call. How about you, Tag? Start of the week.
No, I love Fulgham too. Yates was talking about him earlier in our chat, and I absolutely agree with him. I'm going to go ahead with a rookie here. I'm going to say T. Higgins is someone that you have to have in fantasy lineups against the Titans.
And where do you have T. Higgins tags?
Up at 24.
Wonderful. All right, how about a sit of the week? I mean, Yates, is it Zeke, even though he's not really a sit, or who categorizes?
No, I'll go Devin Singletary.
Yep, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, we are all in agreement with that. And, my guess is that his ECR is going to go lower as the week progresses. But if not, I'm more than happy, for the three of us to be the odd man out on Devin Singletary. Before we go, let us very quickly preview the Thursday night game. And I don't really think it's that much to preview. It's Falcons at the Panthers. You're pretty much starting everyone, right? Yeah. I mean, this is real. Start everyone. We talked about Matt Ryan. He's kind of in the, I don't know if Tags, where do you actually have Matt Ryan ranked this week?
Oh, Matt Ryan. Let me go back to that.
Because I believe he was 10th in ECR. Yates, you had him 12th. I had him 13th.
I have him 8th.
Yeah. All right. So he's a start this week. Of course, you're starting Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley as wide receiver ones. How high is Todd Gurley for you this week, Tags?
Wait, real quick. Who do you guys start, Matt Ryan or Teddy Bridgewater?
Matt Ryan for me by one spot.
Question.
That's exactly how I have it.
I have Teddy Bridgewater higher than Matt Ryan right now. Now, again, I'm going to go do a deep dive into it after this. I like talking to you guys. I like learning some stuff. So right now I do have Teddy Bridgewater ahead of Matt Ryan, but I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive, and I will let everybody know where I come out on that.
I have Gurley at 7.
Yates.
Same here.
I have Todd Gurley at 9, so I'm apparently fading Todd Gurley this week. Russell Gage, do you guys want to start him or not?
No, not this week. This is a week to sit him.
Yates?
Yeah, he's a little bit further down in my rankings. He's a flex play in full PPR leagues.
And we already talked about Hayden Hurst for the Panthers. Nobody is expecting McCaffrey to play in this game, right?
Correct.
We're expecting him to be out another one. So Mike Davis, what? An RB1, top 5, did you say, Tags?
Correct. I have him at 5.
Okay. I have him at 6. Yates?
I have him at 5.
Stop 1.
Stop fading everyone, Dan.
I know. I'm crazy. I'm the low guy on these Thursday night games. Yates, start only one of them. Robbie Anderson or DJ Moore. Who is it?
Robbie Anderson for me.
Tags.
Yeah, it's Robbie Anderson, but I love DJ Moore this week too. I mean, you can play both of them as borderline wide receiver ones.
I definitely agree with that. I have both of them within my top 14, so I'm good with either one of them. Anybody else here for the Panthers you want to go? I mean, you could start Bridgewater. Can you stream him this week?
Yeah, I have him as a top 12 option.
Okay.
Yep. I have him at 9.
Wonderful. Anything else from this game? I mean, start everybody. You have a player in this game, just start him.
Curtis Samuel is a flex play for me. I have him a little bit further down. He can score, of course, but I'm not rushing out there to start Curtis Samuel as a top 36 option or anything.
But if you're desperate, I think that he's a good play if you're desperate in leagues because he has been getting opportunities. He's been getting a couple carries per game.
Yep.
Atlanta, they realized that Isaiah Oliver is just not very good, and then they moved him into the slot, and that's where Curtis Samuel runs the majority of his routes. And there's nobody in the NFL who's allowed more yards in his coverage than Isaiah Oliver.
All right. Wonderful. Well, that is it for our Start Sit show, our Halloween show. I hope that our costumes didn't scare you. Remember, use the Start Sit Assistant. Use all our tools over at fantasypros.com/myplaybook. Go to fantasypros.com/offers to get 6 months free of our Hall of Fame package. Remember, we've got all our start sits during the week. Yates does a live stream on Thursday. The guys do live streams on Sunday morning. I do Instagram Live. Check them all out. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day, and we will talk to you tomorrow with our DFS show.
Thanks for tuning into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Make sure to check out our featured videos as well. Also, make sure to click that red subscribe button to get notified when we post videos in the future.